Hi everyone, welcome to Narene's Life with MS. I am Narene, and this is another Funny Friday episode. And I was thinking very long and hard about what ended up being very funny, maybe something a little more recent. Because I know the past few weeks I've worked on, some stories from my volunteering days, but this one I wanted to make it more centered on, certain funny instances that have happened as a result of, having MS. And this one is definitely something that is very symptom related, and that symptom just happens to be bladder incontinence. I, if you know, you know. So, bladder incontinence, I mean, I have experienced bladder incontinence. I want to say pretty much the entire time I've, had MS. I think that goes with bowel incontinence to some extent as well. I've got stories about that, but this one I will definitely make it about bladder incontinence. Take baby steps to there to the big stuff. So what happened in this story? So this wasn't too long back. I think maybe it was last year when this story happens, and it's such that some good did come out of it, but also you know certain things were definitely about. And so so I'll just set the story. So for this story, it was my friend and I going to another friend's, you know, um, baby shower or some, you know, baby shower or another such ceremony where you know, where we had to pretty much just attend the ceremony. And uh, the only issue was that the location was about 3 hours away from here. So when I started off, I made sure of a couple of things. A, my bladder was completely empty. B, not eating something too heavy as well, just keeping myself as light and airy as possible, and praying to God. Right? I'm not the most religious person, um, or you know, so it just ended up being something that I was just hoping that I would be lucky with. Now, considering it's 3 hours, and the road was not too smooth, it does end up shaking something, does end up shaking the bladder. And um, there were times where I was just like, okay, let's hope there's a little bit more smooth 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 road ahead, so that you know I didn't have a mistake happen. Anyways, we reach the event space, and it just so happened that considering I was you know stuck in a seat for 3 hours, my body was also had turned a little stiff. So the second I got out of the car, I kind of needed to stretch out my body, um, and in doing so, I don't know what happened. I accidented in my pants. And you know um, I wish I could say that this was the first time. I wish I could say this was the only time. This was probably, this was happened so many times previously. I didn't even think about, taking precautions like maybe taking an extra pair of clothes, and or something to clean up with, or even wear an adult diaper if that helped. But thankfully, um, you know, I live somewhere where you have the ability to deliver anything within 10 to 15 minutes, and my friend was kind enough to buy me an entirely new outfit that I actually attended this ceremony with. um, and you know um, I attended that ceremony with, and funnily enough, I might actually wear, considering there's puja downstairs, I might actually wear that as well. So that is a Funny Friday episode, and something that is definitely related more to MS, considering that this is, bladder incontinence is definitely one of the, you know, much more, um, active, at least from what I've seen, much more prominent symptom, uh, just because of you know um, how our lifestyles tend to be. Um, uh, I've got some good news and bad news. So the good news is, I've definitely gotten a lot more control over time. But then the bad news is, when push comes to shove, and you are staying, let's say, in an area for up to 3 hours, and in this case, just a taxi ride for 3 hours, it definitely does, create those situations where, you know, unless you don't address it while it's happening, there is the chance for an accident. So if you do have stories like this, please do share them. um, I know if you are a patient of MS or um, any other autoimmune condition that does does cause um, bladder incontinence, what are your ways to try and eliminate that or reduce the number of times that you get into these kinds of situations, because that would be very, very helpful. And we can definitely start a conversation about what should be in sort of a something, um, you know almost like a medic pack, so that we can pretty much help ourselves um, when we get to this level. I mean, there are many instances where I have done um, some very morally great things to just ensure that I don't get into that situation. But it's such that when you're living a life, when you're um, not living a life but living life, when you are trying to um, attend certain events, and definitely go into um, certain places, or have certain experiences. Sometimes there are ways that your body can say no, but the best thing I'd say is to just um, keep calm and just keep working on it. And of course, you know I got lucky in the fact that there was a way available to um, get clothes to me within 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes it's one of those things where um, I just say that it's best that you pretty much prepare for the worst while looking your best as well, right? So unfortunately lost the ability to wear my best. I had worn some pretty nice clothes, but at the end of the day, I was able to attend the function. um, looked It looked really nice, And honestly, the only drawback was the fact that it was 3 hours away from my house, so that uh, the travel there and back pretty much took up a quarter of the day. uh, so I'd say that is probably the only issue that I really saw from this event. And of course, soiled clothes, um, which thankfully I could, wash and everything. But yeah, that is this funny Friday story. And I'm sorry I'm recording this Saturday morning. Yesterday just turned out to be a very busy day. And by the time I got down to recording this, I just felt too sleepy to actually be able to, you know, construct a sentence that was actually understandable. So that is the story. Please do share stories if you've had similar experiences, especially, when we're talking about bladder incontinence. Um, there are multiple ways that it happens. Of course, at one point in time, on one side, we do have to try and manage our water intake properly, but then on the other side we also have to pretty much make sure that we are drinking a lot of water as well. So yeah, what are some of your ways to pretty much prevent such situations? And of course, when push comes to shove, what is your go-to action? What is your how do you prevent accidents like this from happening, right? I mean, to be in your 30s and still be the person to say, oh yeah, I had a little accident, is sometimes a little touchy for you. But at the end of the day, if you don't have humor regarding that, I think it will um, definitely be a lot more detrimental to your life than actually you know being helpful to try and find a certain solution for it. So that has been Funny Friday. I hope you're having a great Friday. And for those of you that are already on Saturday, I hope you have a great weekend. Um, and yeah, I hope to see you um, on, on Saturday as well for Soulful Saturday. So thanks so much, everyone.